In the winter of 1990, when my second daughter was born, she was taken from the delivery room to the neonatal unit where she was diagnosed with a narrowing of the aorta. How this means a critical narrowing in the main vessel of the heart. She was purplish from chest to toe because her body just wasn't getting enough blood and their tissues were suffocating. When I heard about the diagnosis, I was shaken. Being a doctor, he understood that this meant an emergency thoracic surgery with little chance of long-term survival term. A consultant cardiothoracic surgeon was called to the hospital in Washington, D.C., and when he arrived I was asked to leave the intensive care unit because I had become overly emotional. Accompanied only because of my fears, and with no place of comfort to go while I waited for the scan result, I went to the prayer room at the hospital and knelt down. By first time in my life I prayed with sincerity and commitment. How I passed in my life as an atheist, it was the first time I had partially recognized God. Say partly because even in this moment of panic he did not fully believe, and so I prayed a skeptical prayer in which I promised God, if there were a God, that if he saved my daughter I would seek and follow the religion that most pleased. 10 to 15 minutes later, when I returned to the intensive care unit, I was shocked when the consultant said my daughter would be fine. And really within the next 2 days her condition resolved without medications or surgery, and she became a completely normal child. I know there is a medical explanation for this. As I said, I am a doctor. So when the consultant explained about a persistent ductus arteriosus, low oxygenation, and eventual spontaneous resolution, I understood. I just didn't swallow it. Not even the intensivist, the specialist who made the diagnosis. To this day I remember seeing him standing, with his face pale and speechless. But in the end, the consultant was right and the condition reversed spontaneously and my daughter, Hannah, left the hospital as a normal baby in all aspects. And here's where the problem lies. Many who make promises to God in moments of panic find or invent excuses to escape from their part of the bargain once the danger has passed. As an atheist, it would have been easy to maintain my disbelief in God, attributing my daughter's recovery to the explanation of the physician instead of attributing it to God. But I couldn't. We had the cardiac ultrasound taken before and after, showing the narrowing in a day and non-existent in the other, and all he could think was that God had done his part well in the other. Agreement, and that I had to do mine well. And even if there was a proper medical explanation, she was also under God's control Almighty, and in any case God chose to effect his decree and had answered my prayer. Period. I didn't accept then and I don't accept now any other explanation. In the following years I tried to fulfill my side of the bargain, but I failed. I studied Judaism and various sects of the Christianity, but I never felt that I had found the truth. Over time I attended a wide variety of Christian churches, spending the most in the Roman Catholic congregation. However, I never embraced the Christian faith. Never I succeeded, for the simple reason that I could not reconcile the biblical teachings of Jesus with the teachings of the various sects of Christianity. In the end I simply stayed at home and read, and during that time I was introduced to the Quran sacred and the biography of Prophet Muhammad written by Martin Lings called Muhammad, his life based on the earliest sources, first sources. During my years of study I had references to 3 prophets who would come are found in the Jewish scriptures after Moses. With John the Baptist and Jesus Christ being 2, one of them was missing from according to the Old Testament, and in the New Testament Jesus himself spoke of a final prophet. It was only when I found the Holy Quran teaching oneness of God, as Moses and Jesus had taught, I began to consider Muhammad as the final prophet prophesied, and only after reading his biography did I convinced. And when I was convinced, suddenly everything made sense. continuity in the chain of prophecy and revelation, the oneness of Almighty God, and the conclusion of the revelation in the Holy Quran suddenly made perfect sense, and that's when I became a Muslim. Very smart, huh? No, in a way some. Because I would be tremendously wrong if I believed that I understood everything by self-employed. One lesson I have learned over the past 10 years as a Muslim is that there are many people much smarter than me, but who weren't able to understand the truth of Islam. It's not a matter of intelligence, but of enlightenment, because Allah has revealed that those who have described it will continue in the disbelief, even if warned. As punishment for denying Allah, Allah for His turn denies them the treasure of His truth. Like God teaches in the Holy Quran, as for the unbelievers, I try to get them to the admonished or not admonished them, they will not believe. God sealed their hearts and His ears, their eyes are veiled, and they will suffer a severe punishment. Quran 2-6-7. But on the other hand, the good news is then, he that believeth in God, He will guide his heart. Quran 64-11. God chooses whom He pleases and guides to Himself the contrite. Quran 42-13. And God guides whom He pleases to the path straight. Quran 24-46. So, I thank God I chose to guide me, and I attribute that guidance to a simple formula. Acknowledge God and pray to God alone, sincerely promising to seek and follow His religion in truth, and then, upon receiving His mercy of guide, execute it. Copyright 2007 Lawrence B. Brown, used with permission. About author, Lawrence B. Brown, MD, can be reached at brownell38@yahoo.com. He is the author of the First and Final Commandment, Amana Publications, and Bearing True Witness, Dar es-Salam. Upcoming books are a historical novel, The Eighth Scroll, in and a second edition of the First and Final Commandment, rewritten and